All right, everyone, welcome back to the Sooner Surge, and this is the Sooner Basketball Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about Dayton Forsythe's commitment to the Sooners, the Big 12 schedule that was announced for the Sooners 2023-2024 season. We're going to talk about a potential addition to the Sooners roster this season, who they're going to use that 13th spot on, and more. So if you haven't already, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the Sooner Surge YouTube channel. We're bringing you all types of content across all of Oklahoma athletics. So if you have not yet, make sure you push that subscribe button, turn on the notification so you are notified whenever our latest video comes out, and more. So again, also, if you have not, SoonerSurge.com, that's where all of the articles are at. So make sure you go check that out. Just search up SoonerSurge.com and it will appear if you're watching here on YouTube, which if you are not, make sure you check out the YouTube. You will see this is SoonerSurge.com right here. And this is my article on Dayton Forsythe committing to the Sooners. So if you want to see the article, go to SoonerSurge.com. But first, let's go ahead and get into it. Dayton Forsythe, the first edition in the Sooners 2024 class. Last year they signed Caden Cooper, who was the number one player in the state until he, went and played at the Skill Factory in Georgia. So but he was the best player from the state of Oklahoma. He just was listed as he's from Georgia because that's where he played his senior season. This year, the Sooners, they land the number one player in the state in July, Dayton Forsythe. And Forsythe is a combo guard, which combo guard basically can play the one and he can play the two. He's a very talented player. He visited the Sooners June 16th. He chose Oklahoma over, their rival, Oklahoma State, and Villanova. He was supposed to visit Oklahoma State in September, but Forsythe just said, nope, not going to visit. Going to go ahead and commit to Oklahoma. He's a 6'3", 180-pound combo guard, number one player in the state of Oklahoma, number 222 nationally. Plays for Dale. If you're familiar with Dale in the state of Oklahoma, you know that they're a basketball powerhouse. They've won the past 2 years and going to be the favorites to win it again. So Forsythe could potentially leave his high school basketball career with 3 state championships, which is crazy. But, he's a very talented player. Played for Team Griffin in EYBL. Yes, that is Blake Griffin's EYBL team. But if you're not familiar with EYBL basketball, Peach Jam is the number one event that's kind of like the final tournament in EYBL. It's the biggest tournament across all of summer basketball, all of non-school ball basketball. It's the biggest tournament. Peach Jam is the big tournament. I mean, that's essentially the March Madness of, club basketball. Dayton Forsythe at Peach Jam averaged 14.7 points, 2.8 assists, and 4.1 rebounds on 42.2% shooting and 37.8% shooting from the field, or from behind the arc. 37.8% from behind the arc, 42.2% from the field. That's impressive. And, obviously all the best players in the class are playing in Peach Jam. Most of them. I mean, there's a lot of good players that will play 3SSB, a lot of Sooners targets that play 3SSB, but a lot of these top targets are playing in EYBL. This is the best competition you're going to get. 3SSB is up there with them. But for Peach Jam, Forsythe was very impressive. And he ended Peach Jam in their last game with 28 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals. He did all this playing with 4 stitches in his mouth. Those stats right there kind of tell you the type of player that Forsythe is. He's very talented. And he's very underrated. He's a 3-level scorer. He'll beat you from behind the arc. He'll beat you at the rim. His finishing skills. If you really want to see what he brings to the table, again, I have the tweet linked in my article on SoonerSurge.com. But his Twitter, he posted, a little clip of his last game where he had 28, 11, and 5. He posted a clip of that, and it just kind of shows you he'll beat you behind the arc. He's very crafty at the rim. And this is someone who's also a very good defender. I mean, he's a very underrated defender. A lot of people don't talk about his defense. I mean, he's blocking shots everywhere, stealing the ball. He's athletic too. So he's really what you want in a combo guard. He averaged 1.5 steals per game at Peach Jam. He plays very well off the ball screens. You'll see him and Dylan Warlick and other bigs on that Team Griffin team use the ball screen, and Forsythe excels in those situations. He just makes winning plays. He's a winning player, and he was a must get for the Sooners. So for Porter Moser, I mean, in Peach Jam, obviously I mentioned Forsythe's stats. Impressive to say the least, right? He got a Villanova offer directly after Peach Jam. That I mean, up to that point, Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, and then Purdue was in there. But I was sitting there like his recruitment's going to blow up. Moser just needs to get him in the boat before it really takes off and it gets a lot harder. I was like, it was like buckle up. It was that type of situation. But no, Forsythe just go ahead and locked it in. Moser closed. That means this is what has to be done. You have to close on these guys early, and he did that. He was a must get for many reasons, but at the very minimum, he's the best player in the state. You can't let in-state talent like him leave the state. And, he will continue to rise up rankings. Maybe he wins a third straight state championship. But nonetheless, this was a must get for Porter. He went and did it. Boom. That's what you got to do. You got to land the elite players like Forsythe. He's very good. I mean, this is someone who's going to come in and he'll contribute. He'll play day one. And so I encourage each and every one of you watching this to go watch his film, because he's the type of player where you can look at the rankings, you can look at all that, but he's very underrated. And once you see it on film, you're just kind of like, wow. I mean, this dude can hoop. I think that was he's a hooper. That's what it comes down to. So he's in the boat for the 2024 class. He's your point guard, combo guard of the class. He'll play point guard. This is the inaugural SEC class for Porter Moser. So you got to have a good class, and he's had 2 back-to-back good classes. This one is shaping up to be another one. So, just got to keep it up with what he's doing. And other recruiting news, obviously nothing as big as landing Dayton Forsythe, which is huge. This was something that had to happen for Moser. It happens. Boom. Dayton Forsythe is very talented, and you cannot hammer that in enough. So he's one where it had to happen. He visited on June 16th, and now he's committed. Great job by Porter Moser. What's next recruiting? Micah Robinson, 4-star. He's a forward/wing. He's gonna OV September 9th. And he'll visit. I mean, TCU is the front runner, in my opinion, from everything I've heard. They're going to be hard to beat. He's from the Texas area, close to TCU, very close to TCU. So he's one that's very interesting. He's going to OV. Dylan Battie has told me before he's going to OV, but I don't know when that's going to be. He said sometime after summer he'll take an OV. So those are 2 names that are going to OV to Oklahoma. But yeah, landing Dayton Forsythe is massive. This is what you needed to happen, and the best way you can start your 2024 class. Now you got to fill the rest of it out. But yeah, like I said, if you have not, check out Dayton Forsythe's film. He's very, very underrated, and yeah, you'll see that he can hoop the second you turn on his game film. Just makes a lot of winning plays, and he's still a junior. He's still got another year of high school to improve, and he will improve. He'll come in and be an immediate impact for the Sooners. But who else could come in very soon? We'll get to that in a minute. But first, let's talk about what else was announced today. Some more big news. That is the schedule. right? And, didn't know it's not going to be round robin because Houston, BYU, Cincinnati, UCF are added. So here's what it's looking like if you have not seen it. Oklahoma is going to play at home versus the following schools: Cincinnati, Iowa State, Texas, Houston, BYU, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, Kansas, and West Virginia. Oklahoma is going to play on the road versus Cincinnati, Iowa State, Baylor, Kansas State, Texas, Oklahoma State, UCF, Kansas, TCU, and that's it. So they're playing the following teams twice: Cincinnati, Iowa State, Texas, Oklahoma State, and Kansas. Everyone else they're just playing once. Four of those being Houston, BYU, West Virginia, Tech at home. And then four of those UCF, TCU, BYU, and K-State on the road. So off rip, looking at the schedule, they're going to get one last chance to win in Allen Fieldhouse. It's the number one thing that sticks out. Cincy is a good team to draw twice. You would have preferred for that. I mean, UCF on the road's you want that game. That's one of the teams you want to play on the road. You do not want to play K-State on the road. That's going to be tough. I mean, this whole schedule is going to be tough. This is a brutal schedule. Not to mention their non-con schedule, which, yes, one more shot in Lawrence is one of the biggest things. Pretty sure I can tell you how that game's going to go already, but, Houston coming to the LNC, Kelvin Sampson returning to the LNC, that's going to be a big game. That's a good game to get on your schedule. Don't have to go to Morgantown. Don't have to go to Lubbock. It's going to be kind of nice. Headed to Ames one last time. Going to play Texas twice, Oklahoma State twice. Expected those two to be twice. But yeah, I mean, I like it. Schedule's looking nice. It's going to be tough. I don't know of any team that's going to have – I mean, so far I've not seen a team whose non-con schedule is on par with what Oklahoma is going to be, and it's not even confirmed yet. But you can probably, Arkansas game, North Carolina, Providence. North Carolina, Providence are confirmed. Arkansas is going to happen. You're going to play 2 of the 3 of Seton Hall, Iowa, and USC. USC and Iowa are probably 2 teams you'll get. USC, as many will know, the storyline is going to be there with, LeBron James' son playing on that team, Isaiah Collier, number 1 player in the class, playing on that team. They're going to have all the cameras behind them. But that's brutal just right there. And who knows what other teams are going to add. Sam Houston, not going to be on the schedule. That's the biggest win out of them all. But yeah, the Big 12 schedule being announced, it's cool to be in the Big 12 one last year. Yeah, it's going to be very tough. Not sure how it's going to. I mean, the way they work the schedule out, it works well. Oklahoma State having to play Kansas twice and Iowa State twice, who very well those could be the 2 best teams in the conference, and then having to go to Baylor. At least didn't have to go to Houston, but you got to go to Baylor and Kansas State and TCU. That's another one. TCU is going to be really good. They're going to be really good. You got to go to TCU, to Kansas State, and to Baylor. I mean, the only road game I like here is UCF. So off rip, I mean, people are going to be looking at how many games are they going to win in the class. I mean, we can early look at this, and it's not going to be very accurate, but can you beat Cincy twice? I mean, I think that's one that you could beat Cincy twice. Looking at Cincy, what they're going to look like this year, they'll probably roll out a starting lineup of Davion Thomas, one of the best, I think, JUCO players, CJ Frederick, Seamus Luciosius, Victor Lakin, and Aziz Bandadogo. I mean, they have a solid team, but I think you should beat them twice. So that's 2. I'll give that 2. Iowa State at home, you can get that one. I'd say one of the Iowa State games you can get. That's 3. And again, this is just kind of like a raw prediction of what I think they can be. I'd say right now that's 3 wins. Baylor, not going to give that one. Kansas State, not going to give that one. I think you can beat Texas once, even though they'll have a very good team. I think you can beat them once. Houston at home, I think they might win that game, but for all intents and purposes, I'll give that one a no. So what are we at? We're at 2, 3, 4. BYU 5. At home, you got to beat BYU. Oklahoma State, can you win one? Please don't lose 3. I'll go 4. I think they can beat Oklahoma State twice, but I'll be realistic and say 4. You got to beat Tech at home. That's 5. UCF on the road 6. Kansas, I think they beat Kansas once. Probably not. Probably at home. That's 7. TCU, no. West Virginia 8. So 8 wins, unless you can steal some in conference play. That's probably where I'd go. 8 wins, 8 to 10 wins is where I see it. You could take the Houston game. You could take the TCU game. You can win all these at the same time. You could lose a lot of these. And BYU, a lot of people are going to pencil that in as a win, and myself included, but they got a good team. They're going to be underrated, I think, by a lot of people. And BYU, that's just a home game, so you don't go to Provo. Pretty nice not going to Provo. No one wanted to, that Provo game on a Tuesday night, that would have been a 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock tip for Central Time. That would have been brutal. Hopefully they would have got that on Saturday. But thank you, Big 12, for not giving us Provo. I'm actually glad they got Kansas twice, because one more shot in Lawrence. Probably won't happen, but one more shot. It's nice. So Oklahoma State you can beat twice easily. You can easily beat Oklahoma State twice, but I don't think they will. Just basic prediction. So, yeah, that's the Big 12 schedule that we're working with right now. In terms of the non-con schedule, too, it's going to be tough. Confirmed games, as I mentioned, or not confirmed. Not all of these are confirmed, but games on the schedule so far, they're going to open with Central Michigan, I believe. So that's your basic opener. Sam Houston last year, I guess, was your basic opener. We all know how that turned out. But yeah, that's your basic opening game. And then you've got Providence. That's the Big East Big 12 challenge. Last year in that challenge, they had Nova. You've got Green Bay, Central Arkansas. Those are going to be 2 games. The Rady Children's Invitational is what I mentioned with USC, Iowa, and Seton Hall. You're going to play 2 out of the 3 of those teams. And then Arkansas and Tulsa, and then the Jumpman Invitational, where last year you got Florida. This year you're getting North Carolina. So that's already a tough schedule. Who knows what it's going to look like once all the other games get confirmed. And then the Big 12 one, that's a very tough schedule. Very tough. So, yeah, that's Oklahoma's schedule heading into this upcoming season, the final season of the Big 12. Let's talk about the roster for a minute, because on the last one, we kind of had like a opening pod to this. We talked about, each player on the roster. So if you haven't, go listen to that. Touch briefly on each player, talk about each player. But right now, the roster: Latrey Darthard, John Hughley, Javier McCollum, Otega Away, Caden Cooper, Rivaldo Soares, Sam Godwin, Yaya Kadam, Milos Uzan, Jalen Moore, Jacob Cole, Luke Norweather. That's 12 scholarship players. Who are they going to use the 13th on? I got, Max Klanchek. I probably butchered the last name, but I heard ESPN say Klanchek. That's how they said it. So Klanchek, Max Klanchek. That's how I heard them say it, so that's how I'll say it. From Slovenia. has played for Maine, Salt Lake City Community College, Houston Christian most recently, and there might be another school that he played for. I mean, I don't. No. That's that's right. Kansas City Roos back in 2019. So it's 4 schools. This would be his 5th. He's, a lot of people know about, if you follow football recruiting, the Peyton Bowen, how he was whole in the Oklahoma database. Well, it's a public database. You can search up anyone on there. So Max Klinchek is in the Oklahoma database. Take that for what you want. But I think Klinchek is going to be another commitment we see. I think he'll sign. I think that's the 13th roster spot. I feel very confident in that. So then you look at your roster. If you add him, which it's not confirmed yet, but I think Max Klinchek is another addition to this team. I feel very confident that he'll be a Sooner. Your guards, you have Latrey Darthard, J.V. McCollum, Milos Usin, Max Klinchek. And then your wings, Otega Owe, Caden Cooper, Rivaldo Soares. Your forwards, Sam Godwin, Yaya Keita, Jalen Moore, Jacob Cole, Luke Norweather, and John Hughley as your centers. So that's a solid roster. And, Max Klinchek started all 32 games for Houston Christian last year. They were bad. They were terrible last year. But he averaged 15 points, 3.8 rebounds, 2.4 assists. Which is good. The thing that impresses me the most about him is just the way he finished the season. I mean, he had a very, very good finish to his season at Houston Christian. It was impressive. But nonetheless, I mean, this is a solid addition for Oklahoma. He's probably, you're not rolling in expecting Max Klinchek to play pivotal minutes for you or anything like that. He's going to provide depth. Maybe he, plays really well. You never know. But I mentioned his impressive finish to the season. This is a stretch of games. This is a 7-game stretch of games where he scored the following: 24, 30, 25, 21, 33, 22, and 25. Yeah, this was this is the Southland Conference. That's not that good. And Houston Christian was 7-11 in conference, 10-22 overall. They were not good. But 24, 30, 25, 21, 33, 22, and 25 in a 7-game stretch, that's impressive. And in that 7-game stretch, he shot 54%, 45%, 37%, 33%, 40%, 30%, 45% from three-point range. That's also quite impressive. He's not, yes, this team lost 82-31 to Texas in their 2nd game of the year. But, he's solid. He'll be a solid player for the Sooners. 1-year player, which we talk about the 2024 class, and there's a lot of names of players you can add. Here's the thing. Darthard's gone. Soares is gone. Godwin, I'm pretty sure, is gone. And Max Klinchek is more than likely. Yeah, he's gone if he's a Sooner, which is shaping up to be that way. 6'5" guard, by the way, Klinchek is. So that gives you 4 spots. So you take 4 in your class. That's kind of how I'd see it, 3 to 4. You got one of them in Dayton Forsythe today. Huge. But yeah, I think Max Klinchek is going to be the 13th and final addition to this roster. I think that's probably something that's going to come in the near future. Yeah, I mean, he's one who is obviously, like I said, he's in the database. I wouldn't be shocked if that's something that we see, you know, we see it pop where he commits to the Sooners or just signs with them very soon. I mean, I could see that one happening at any time at this point. So yeah, it does look the way that, I mean, and obviously the database, you can't take too much from it because Colton Vasek, football wise, he was in the database. So you don't want to just base everything off that. But I do think Oklahoma has got Max Klinchek, even though it's not public or nothing. I think Oklahoma has landed Max Klinchek. That's my assumption right now. So I do think he'll be the 13th man on the roster. Yeah, I mean, Dayton Forsythe, the biggest news of the day, then the schedule, also big news. So those are the main things we got to talk about in this one. I do plan on having more recruiting news as far as more guys to keep eyes on, who's going to OV. I do plan on having a lot more of that in this upcoming week's podcast. We're going to talk a lot more of that about that. And then, we'll touch on other things like, touching on those Big 12 teams rosters, touching on the Oklahoma roster, who's the X factor, players who could surprise you. What do I think the rotation lineup is going to look like? All types of stuff like that. We're going to get to that every single week. We're going to have one of these podcasts out. And I believe, I don't know off the top of my head, so let me check. We got about 17, 18 weeks until the Sooners will play. I might have miscounted that. You counted it pretty quick. Might have miscounted it. But yeah, that's what it's going to look like. So again, appreciate everyone listening. We talked about Dayton Forsythe, the Big 12 schedule, Max Klinchek. Yeah, that's really what there was to cover. That was the goal in this episode. We'll have more topics next week. Maybe Max Klinchek commits next week. Maybe he commits this week. No one knows where that one's going to go. But yeah, Dayton Forsythe, huge addition, as I've mentioned many times. If you have not, go check out my article on it at search or Soonersurge.com. And if you haven't also, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube, man. Why not? We've got all types of, content rolling your way. This is our second edition of the Sooner Basketball Podcast. I'm going to bring them your way each week. So drop in the comments whatever you want. I'll respond to all of those. Any questions you have in the comments. If you haven't followed me on Twitter, Brody_SS stands for Sooner Surge. But yeah, comment on the video. We love your comments. We love the likes, subscribe, notifications, all that. And yeah, boomer.